Hello, welcome back to Logic Lab, a channel where I teach puzzle solving one deduction at a time. As I work through this Sudoku grid, I'll explain my entire thought process, and by the end of the solve, you'll have a clear understanding of how to read Sudoku structure, spot hidden interactions, and break open even the trickiest of puzzles. Let's dive in. All right, here is Set Sail by Panda. Okay, rules a little bit complicated, but hopefully not too bad. So we're going to sail the pirate ship along a path around the island green cells. Here are the green cells. Okay, starting and ending at the dock, row 5, column 6. Here's row 5, column 6. So we're starting here. The path must not cross itself, but may travel in any direction orthogonal or diagonal except directly into the wind coming from the north. The path must not go straight up. Okay, so it would be illegal for the path to go like this because it would go straight up. The path cannot enter the island cells, right? So we have to kind of walk around this grid. The path must pass through every ship along the way. Obviously, these are the ships. To steal their supplies, digits must decrease along the path except when boarding a ship or re-entering the dock cell. The digit on a ship is exactly 3 greater than the previous digit on the path. The dock with the pirate ship does not have to be 3 greater than the previous digit. Shallow water, the light blue cells. Digits in shallow water sum to the value in the corner if given the path must not enter any shallow water. Kraken. The digit 3 represents Kraken. Kraken do not appear in the island, green cells, nor may the path enter them lest your ship be sunk. And obviously normal circle rules apply. Place digits 1 to 9 once each in every row, every column, and every 3 by 3 box. So those are the rules. Hopefully it's clear. Way to play is to click the link in the video description, and now it's my turn. Here we go. First thing I'll do, well, we have a 4 cage, so I'm just going to make this 1, 3. The cell is the start of the path. It can't go straight up, so the path must go here. I'm going to use the Cracking the Cryptic pen tool to draw lines in the middle of the grid. This 8 cage must contain a 1. You have to be careful because it cannot enter, the path cannot be a part of any of these light blue cells. Now, the path, okay, it has to get back to this cell. So the only way to get back is to come directly from this cell. So I'm going to make this a different color, just so I know that on the way back, it's going to come from this cell to this cell, and it's not going north because we're going the other way. So now where do you put a 3 in the box? Remember, 3s are krakens. They cannot appear on the island cells or on water, or on the on the ship's path. So this must be a 3 then. Okay. And now the 3, because this path has to come down here, right? So the 3 is definitely in one of 2 positions now, which means now the 3, because you can't have a 3 here because then you would have the ship go on the Kraken and then your ship would be destroyed and then you suffer a fatal death. So we don't want that happening. So this must be a 3 to ensure that that is the case by Sudoku. 3 is in one of 2 positions by Sudoku, so let's continue the logic with 3s. Now, if, let's see something. Okay, so let's just say if this were a 3, something interesting is going to happen. Because this is kind of forcing some things. If this were a 3, what would you make the 8 cage? Well, it can't be 1, 3, 4. It would have to be 1, 2, 5. Now, the path is forced to fork this. Now, there's a problem, is that when the path gets here, remember, digits strictly decrease along the sailing path, except for when you hit a ship. It increases by 3 from the previous digit. So let's suppose you had like 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. You'd have an issue because you can't make any of these cells like this line would basically be impossible because any way that you decrease the numbers, this cell obviously can't be a 3 or a 1, 2, or a 4, because if this were a 4, you'd have to include like a 5 here to get the decreasing sum to make sense, or the decreasing run to make sense. That means this is a 3. Yeah, basically, when we do the path, okay? Let me just rewind. Suppose this was a 3, okay? What's going to happen? Well, the path needs to come around the 3 and come back around like this. Now, let's take a look at what this would mean. How many cells? We could do a 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. It's impossible. It's impossible because you can't make going around the 3. If you decrease the digits, this cell couldn't be 1, 2, and 3. It would have to be a 4, but you can't make it a 4 because you have to decrease digits and you don't have enough. So this is not a 3. So this must be a 3. And the path must go like this. So we're going to reach this cell, 9876. I mean, it's forced to do this because it can't go down here, because then this would have to be a 5, and that would break. So it must go like this. And this is completely forced. And the reason is because you can only make it 987654. Remember, the cell right before the ship is an indicator that the ship cell is +3. And remember, we can't have it, in this case, be a 1, 2, or 3. 3s are cracking. So we'd have to make it a 4. So this is forced, 4, 7. And this is forced, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Hopefully that's clear. Now, the path cannot run into the light blue cells. It either goes down or it goes this way. The next ship it will run into is this ship. They just decrease from ship to ship. Let's just hypothesize. What happens if it goes up? The way I'm looking at it, there's going to be an issue because suppose it goes up. It has to come back down to reach the ship. And then it has to come back up to reach this ship. But let's just take a look at that. So if it goes down, this is 6, 5, 4. This obviously can't be a 3. It would have to be a 2, 5, 4. You don't have enough low digits. You're going to run into an issue because these 4s would repeat. So basically what that means is that the path cannot go up. The path must go down, but it can't take too many cells. Like if it goes like this, it has to do something like this. Now you have to make this 6, 5, 4. Again, you can't use 3 on the path, so that's impossible. So it must kind of minimize the amount of squares it takes. So it's going to go like this. And this is forced to be a 6 and a 5, so they just decrease. So now this is not a 5. Now the 4 is in one of two positions. It either goes like 4, and then it goes to here, which has to be a 7, because it's going to decrease or increase by 3. You know it can't go straight up. This puzzle is like quite perfectly constructed. Because now this 12 water cage like is perfectly fit in here. Well, this 12, okay, you can either do a 3, 9, a 4, 8, or a 5, 7. But you can't do a 5, 7 here or a 4, 8 because it would mess up this. So this must be a 3, 9. Which means that's not a 3. So this is a 3. This is not a 9. So this is a 3. That's a 9. Now there is a 3 in one of two positions. So watch out for the 3s. The sailor's path cannot touch a 3. It will be sunk. So now we know that the path, we know it can't go straight up due north. So it has to either go this way or this way. And my guess is probably it's not going to go this way. Because how can it go that way? Then it wouldn't be able to go north. It would have to like zigzag, but there's just not enough low digits. You'd have to make this a 6, 5, 4. It's not possible. So the path needs to kind of take a diagonal, and then it can't go straight up. So it'd have to go like this. We're kind of minimizing the distance here. So this cell could be a 6. It could be a 5. I don't think it could be a 5. Because if it's a 5, what do you make this cell? It can't be a 4 or a 3 or a 2, because then this would be a 5, which would break. You can't make this less than a 5, because then this would have to be a 2, and that would break. So this is forced. It's very constricted. This must be 6, 5. Hopefully that's clear. And this is 3 more than 5, so it's 8. This will get rid of the 5 here. This will conveniently place a 5 right there. Now this 12 cage, again, can't contain a 5, 6, or a 7, or 3, 9, so it must be 4, 8. So there is an 8 definitely in one of 2 positions. Don't know if the path goes this way or this way. We don't know that yet. So now the sailor's path, there's no way it can go this way because it'd be running into 3s and we will not reach our destination. And so it has to go either this way or this way. What we learned from this puzzle is that we need to kind of optimize the shortest distance between each sailboat, because the more cells we have to go, the more digits we need to decrease from, and we're restricted on that. Also, there's a 7 in one of the 2 positions. But anyway, let's try to do this. So let's take a look. If the sail goes like this, it must go straight up. And remember, it can't go, the path cannot go straight up due to the winds, so it has to go like this. And I believe this cell must be a 7, because it's not a 6, it's not a 5 or a 4 or a 3, and it can't be a 2. Can we show why it can't be a 2? Yes, we can. Because if this is a 2, then it has to go this way, which would be a 1. And then we can't decrease anymore. So we'd have to go straight to the sailboat. But then we'd be going due north, which is impossible. Not allowed by the rules. So that's forced, which puts a 7 in one of 2 positions. And again, we can't go straight north, so we have to bypass the Kraken, maneuver our way past this pesky 3, and we can't go straight. This cell could be a 5. Could it be a 4? Okay, the 6 by Sudoku must go there on that island cell. Can we prove that the path can't go this way? Maybe. We do know that there is a 7 in one of 3 positions, which I will pencil mark that. It's possible for the 7 to be here, followed by like a 5 and a 4 and a 7. That's possible. These cells are restricted by Sudoku. They are only a 2, 6, and a 9. There is a 9 in one of 2 positions by Sudoku, so this is not a 9. So there is a 9 in one of 2 positions there. Interesting to note that if the path went to the left, it cannot touch a 9 because digits along the path must decrease until it gets to the sailboat. And it also can't cross a 6. So that's kind of interesting. Could it get to a 2? Could it get to a 2? Because if we can prove it can't get to a 2, then we can prove the path does not go this way. If it gets to a 2, it would have to come here right to a 5. So it would have to go 4, 2, 5, if this were a 5, you'd have to make it 4, 7. It seems very restricted, but it may just work. And the 9's in one of is either here or here. Yeah, okay, this is kind of interesting. In this column, okay, there obviously is an 8 and a 7 up there because of the 8, 7 looking here. Now, so imagine this cell was a 9, you'd have to make this a 7, 8, 9 pair. That's the only way to make this will break the 16 cage because the minimum you can make this is 15, and then you can't do half and half to make 16. So therefore, that is a nice way of showing that you can't make this a 9. This must be a 9. So these cells are 4, 7, and 8. And again, you can't have the 7 and 8 together. It would break the 16 cage. So that means there must be a 4 in one of two positions. This is a 7, 8 pair. Let's continue. There's also 4 in one of two positions. If it were 4, 8, this would have to sum to 4. 16 minus 12 is 4. But you would have to use 1, 3, which would break this cell. So this is not 4, 8. It is 4, 7, so this is an 8. Very nice. So since this is 4, 7, that's 11. And now in order to make this sum to 5, you can't use 1, 4, so you have to use 2, 3. So that's going to force the 1 and the 3 to work out. And we get a 3 in the corner, 3 in the spotlight. And this puzzle, I'm not losing my hair. I am doing quite well here. So the 3 by Sudoku is there. So the path is getting restricted since it can't, once it reaches this boat, it can't come down. It's blocked off. And it can't go straight up north. So we kind of know, we know that the path will go like this. And then it's either coming from here or it's coming from there. And then it has to come back down. But let's focus on, there's a 5 in one of two positions by Sudoku, and there's a 6 in one of two positions by Sudoku. I probably could have realized this. Where does a 9 go in this box? Well, it has to go in one of two positions, which means this is not a 9. So now the 9 must go here. So there is a 9 in one of two positions. There's also a 3 in one of two positions. So that is a 3, 9 pair, which means this must be an 8. Which gets the 4 and the 8, and that's going to do this 4, which is very important because now we know that the path comes this way. Okay, so we have a 1 and a 2 to place in this box. At the moment can't be resolved. This is a 1 or a 2. And now by Sudoku, you can put a 1 in any of these, so the 1 must be in one of three positions, so it's not here. So 2, 1, 1. This is a 2, that's a 1. Very nice. So these cells are 2, 7, and 8. These are a 1, 2, 4. With this not being a 4. What else? Okay, the 8's in one of two positions by Sudoku. Can we do more with this? Okay, this is so clever. Let's ask ourselves, what can this cell be? Well, it's seeing 1, 2, 3, and 4. If it's a 5, it has to have came from, right, we said either here or here. But in that case, the digit it came from is 3 less than 5, which is 2. But it's impossible because there's a 2 looking here. This is not 5, so it's a high digit. It's 6, 7, 8, or 9. And again, it can't be a 6, because then it would have to have come from a 3, and 3s are not allowed on the sailor's path. So it's a 7, 8, or 9, which means the cell directly before it is a 6. It's a 6, a 5, or a 4. Cell can only be, it can't be a 2. It's a 4, a 5, or a 7. How would you make 4 and 5 work? How would you make 4 work? Because then it would have to come from a 1, which is impossible. So it's 5 or 7. If it's a 5, then this is like 4, 2, 5. If it's a 7, it would have to be 5, 4, 7. Well, any way you slice it, the 2 must go there. So this is never a 2. So there is a 2 in one of 2 positions. And this is a 6 or a 9. So I think we just proved that the path cannot go this way, because then this would increase and it must decrease. So path either goes this way or this way. If it goes this way, it's a 2, 5. It's like 4, 2, 5. If it goes this way, five, 4, 7. Interesting. Interesting, very interesting. Okay. What else are we gonna do? I mean, it's very interesting here. Right, imagine this was a 5. Okay. If it was a 5, it would have to come here. And it would have to be a 4 and a 7. Yeah, so if it's a 5, it has to either do 4, 7 or 4, 7. But either way, you have now lost the ability to put a 7 in the column. Because the 7 here would rule out 7 here, and then you can't put 7 anywhere. So the 5 is impossible. I'm just going to do that again. Yeah, it is not possible to make this a 5. So you have to make it a 7. So now this is a 4 or 5. Now since it is a 7, it tells us that the cell directly before it must be a 4. So the path is unable to go like this. It can't, because the cell directly before it on the path must be 3 less than it. So there's only one way for the path to go. It has to go like this. So that forces 5, 4. This is now 4. This is now a 7. That's a 4. We're avoiding this. This is now not a 7. So it's an 8 or a 9. Now this means this is a 9 by Sudoku. Now this is a 6, that's a 2. There's no 2 there. This is a 1 and a 6, which is doable. 1, 6, and now that's a 1, that's a 2, that's a 4. And this thing is we're going to crack this thing. Cracking the Kraken. Now this is a 6. This is a 1, 5, 9. Well, this is now not a 3, so it is a 9. That's 3. This is 5, 9. This is 5, 8, 9. So this is a 5, 9. 8 in one of 2 positions. Now it must, wherever it goes to, right? Since it has to decrease from the ship, it can't go to a 9 or an 8. Pretty clearly. So it must go to a 5, and then when it goes to the 5, it must go 3 more. And then 5, which is 8. Which is just going to unravel this quite nicely. 2, 7 pair. This is a 5, 9. The path goes like this, or it goes like that. And now we need in this row 2 and a 4, which is doable. That gives us the 7 and the 2, which gives us this is a 2. We can kind of draw the path in a second. This is a 1 and a 6. So that's a 1. That's a 6. 4, 7. 7, 4. 7 by Sudoku is conveniently right there. And we'll just finish this guy up. So 1, 5 here. That's a 9. That's a 5. That's a 9. That's a 5. This is a 9. And this cell is a 6. And that's going to do the puzzle. But before I do it, I need to just connect the sailor's path. 5 goes to a 4, goes to a 2, goes to a 9. And the last digit is a 6. And that's going to do the puzzle. Congratulations on making it back to shore alive with your stolen treasure. Now you just have to avoid getting caught by the authorities. Well, this puzzle was absolutely incredible. Look at how beautifully this was constructed. You have a green island, and then you have the concept of the ship, which needs to sail across cells that decrease until you get to a ship, and then it's 3 greater. All the way throughout the grid, smartly crafting, maneuvering past the shallow water, all the way up the grid, never going straight north, and reaching eventually back to the dock, where you can run away with all the stolen treasure. This was a joy to solve. Hope you guys liked it. I'll see you in the next one.